It's springtime in England. The flowers are blooming, the skies are blue, well, mostly, and people are gathering together outside to socialize after a long year of isolation. The rebirth and renewal brought on by the springtime has long been an inspiration for artists, and in particular for poets. Think William Wordsworth's Lines Written in Early Spring, or Shakespeare's Sonnet 98. From you I have been absent in the spring, when proud-pied April, dressed in all his trim, hath put a spirit of youth in everything, that heavy Saturn laughed and leaped with him. It may not be as famous as Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day, but this springtime sonnet is lovely in its own right. In it, Shakespeare uses three forces to indicate that the spring has arrived. Firstly, the season arrives in the form of a personified April. Secondly, the natural world undergoes embellishment and renewal. And thirdly, the Roman god Saturn appears laughing and leaping. But what is a Roman god doing in England? It seems like an unusual setting, but the connection between the Roman gods and the arrival of spring has a long poetic tradition. 16 centuries before Shakespeare put quill to paper, a Roman poet named Quintus Horatius Flaccus, known as Horace in the English-speaking world, wrote 4 books of odes. Horace was a brilliant poet, witty, erudite, and immensely skilled at weaving Latin words together. He also was fascinated by the passing of time and its effect on human beings and the natural world. Let's turn back the clock to approximately 25 BCE. Horace is finishing up writing his first 3 books of odes, and ancient Rome's imperial period is in its infancy. It's springtime in ancient Rome. Although many of Horace's works are thematically linked to the passing of time and the natural world, let's focus on one particularly spring-inspired poem, Ode 1-4. The poem begins with the announcement that bitter winter is loosening its grip, as spring and the west wind bring a welcome change. Horace uses this arrival of spring as a backdrop for his ode. The harsh winter is fading away, and the warm breezes of spring herald the new season, much to the poet's delight. Winter-time has passed into springtime. So if the English spring caused Saturn to cavort in Shakespeare's sonnet, then how did the gods react to the Roman spring? Horace tells us in lines 5-8. Now Cytherean Venus leads the dancers under the hovering moon, and the lovely Graces joined with the nymphs strike the earth with alternating feet, while fiery Vulcan visits the grave workshops of the Cyclopes. When spring arrives, the gods spring into action. Above ground, Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, leads the divine Graces and nymphs in a moonlit dance. Underground, Vulcan, the god of fire, does an inspection of the forges that belong to the Cyclopes. Notice the kind of language Horace uses to talk about the gods' reaction. The word now ties the actions of the gods to the time of the year. Now, in the springtime, Venus dances. Now, in the springtime, Vulcan visits the forges. Additionally, notice that the verbs Horace uses are indicative and in the present tense. The movement of the gods just happens automatically. There's no deliberation, no condition on which they take action. Spring has arrived, so the gods dance. It's almost mechanical. But what about us human beings? What are we to do when spring arrives? It turns out we have a choice, and Horace addresses this in the lines 9-12. Now it is proper either to bind one's glistening head with green myrtle, or with the flower that the loosened earth bears. Now it is proper to make a sacrifice to Faunus in the shady groves, whether he demands a lamb or prefers a young goat. Horace doesn't say that we humans automatically tie flowers into our hair or perform sacrifices the moment the spring arrives. The gods behave automatically, not human beings. Instead, he says that now is the time when such actions are proper. The Latin verb that expresses this is decet, which means it is proper or it is appropriate. You, I, and the ancient Romans can act in accordance with what is proper for the season, or we can do something completely different. It's our choice. Often people think about the Roman gods as being completely free from time's constraints. After all, they are immortal, so the aging process really doesn't apply to them. But Horace implies here that there are some ways in which human beings have more freedom from time than the gods. When spring arrives, the gods have to dance and move about. When spring arrives, human beings can do what is seasonally appropriate, or not. Even though we may be feeling a little less free this spring than we have in years past, I hope you can take some inspiration from Venus this springtime and enjoy a walk, or dance, in the outdoors. And who knows, maybe like Vulcan, we'll be able to visit our workplaces in person again soon.